What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jaya. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I talk all things books on this channel with a little random sprinkling of eclectic on the channel. Today, we're actually going to be talking about all the books that have been consumed and read and enjoyed in the month of September. So if that sounds like something you want to see, definitely stick around. It's reading time here at JB's Corner. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. It has been amazing building this reading community with you guys. For those of you that are new, thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking on the video. I just want to preface this by saying September was an interesting reading month for me. It's been a crazy month. We have just been traveling a lot. There's a lot that's been happening in our household as a family. And so it's just been absolutely insane. Couple of quick updates before we jump into the video, just to give a better understanding of why the reading was so light this month. I ended up going home over Labor Day weekend for my future sister-in-law's bachelorette. She's marrying my brother actually next month, and we're very, very excited for it. And then I also ended up coming back from that and developing a very, very intense bout of COVID, as it turned out, which was rampant over the course of Labor Day weekend. So I had the sore throat and the body aches and the pain and all that stuff. But I almost took it as like a body necessary vacation. So just completely passed out and rested and relaxed. The only thing that was kind of sad about it is one of my best friends that I've known forever. She's like a sister. She's really more of a sibling than anything else. She had come to visit and she was staying with me for a week, and it was her first time coming to visit me at this spot in this location since I've been married and moved to where I am now. And it was just very unfortunate, but also a very unique experience for us, given that we've been friends since we were 6. That we both happened to be sick at the same time. So we didn't get to do a lot of the activities that we had originally planned to do, but it was a very unique experience being sick with a friend. That being said, with fever and chills and all that kind of stuff, I ended up taking more days off than I had originally anticipated taking off for that Labor Day period. And so I had to make up the days over the weekend, which would have been my reading time. So that took away some time. I also ended up having a second bachelorette that I participated in, which was absolutely incredible. Some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful women were there. And it was just so wonderful to celebrate with them. And our blushing, lovely bride is one of the most kind-hearted, down-to-earth, beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, both inside and out. And it was just so much fun celebrating her. But that weekend ended up becoming quite busy as well. And these past 9 days have been a religious festival for us, if you are of the Hindu background. And it's basically the celebration of Navaratri, 9 days of celebration of basically the beautiful qualities within a woman and all the different strengths that that offers us, while focusing on continued spiritual growth and community and all these other things. So every weekend and every evening for the past 9 days has been extremely busy. My husband is also a musician, so I was also supporting him by going to his concerts and things like that. So it's just been a very tumultuous but wonderful, busy time. So for all the reasons mentioned before, my reading overall this month was a little bit on the slower side. I didn't get through all of my TBR this month, which was very sad, but that's okay because we will get to those books eventually. Overall, I ended up reading a total of 11 books this month, and it was absolutely wonderful. I did do a sneak peek video in my last video of what I read over the course of the month of September. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I definitely get more into the nitty-gritty of some of the books that I did end up reading. So that was a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's go through the beautiful stack. So the first book that I ended up reading was Schooled by Anisha Lakhani. This book is absolutely amazing. It definitely suits my aesthetic, my vibes, my lifestyle, my beliefs, everything. And it was just so wonderful to read because I felt like this was me in my 20s, and it was very relatable. And it's basically about a woman who walks into the world thinking that, teaching is going to be her calling. She's very excited about teaching. She thinks it's going to be a beautiful industry to shape the minds of the young. And she's basically working in the Manhattan elite prep schools, and she's so excited to meet these young kids. And every time she keeps educating them or teaching them or taking more effort to plan activities for them, she gets more and more complaints. And the less she does with the kids, the more praise she gets. She also quickly falls into the world of the private tutoring, and she realizes that essentially you're doing the work for the kids, but you're getting paid a ton of money to do it. So she's able to live this high life. She's very, very impressed by that New York lifestyle, and she's getting sucked into all the brands and all the hairstyles and all the cool lunch spots. And she keeps telling herself it's okay, until eventually her moral compass kicks back on, and she's like, wait, what am I actually doing? And I think just watching this young 20-year-old girl graduating from Columbia, wanting to be the best teacher in the world, becoming disillusioned in the field, kind of, ending up in a false path and then finding her way back and creating it to be her own, was just a very beautiful read. I gave this a 5-star the first time I read it. The reread was also a 5-star for me, and I just absolutely adore this book. The next book that I want to show you guys is The Last Heir to Blackwood Library. This was the book that we ended up reading for the Paper and Glam book club, which is a book club run by the beautiful Lisa Marie Landreth with a bunch of like-minded young women that get together and basically discuss these beautiful books once a month. The selections for the books are usually done the previous year. There is a voting system that occurs, so we all get to kind of play into picking the title that we will be reading for the next year. And you kind of have the books that you're going to be reading a year in advance, so you can prep to have all the books ready to go. I'm so sorry. So for this September season, we ended up reading The Last Heir to Blackwood Library. This book was incredible. It's basically a gothic vibe book. So for those people who enjoyed novels such as Mexican Gothic, this is very in familiarity to that book. Basically, there's this mystical, magical library, and we find out that our main female character has just become the sole owner of the Abbey, and she is being requested to come to the Abbey in order to live there without understanding the magical properties of this library. And while she's slowly making herself at home there without fully understanding the intricacies of what's going on, as well as kind of rubbing elbows with the staff that's there, she realizes that there's a man that has suddenly taken interest in her as well as in her library. Crazy things keep happening, and it's kind of like that magical gothic vibes to this book. The only thing she knows is that the owners of this particular mansion or abbey that she's taken over tend to die young, and they're oftentimes found with dementia. And she doesn't know what that means for her, what that means for her genetics. And she ends up at this mansion kind of navigating her way through. It was a fun, fast-paced read. I ended up giving this a 4-star. I think it was really enjoyable. I think it's fun. I think it's fun, fast-paced. I think it's perfect for the October spooky season or November fall season. It was definitely a great choice, and it was a lot of fun to read. Is it my absolute favorite book? No, but I do think it's definitely worth picking up and reading if you are in the mood for that gothic kind of vibe. The next 2 books I want to talk about are by some of my favorite authors. I'm not going to go into, my favorite author. I'm not going to go into too much detail with these books because I do plan on doing a video dedicated to this author soon where I will talk in more detail about these books. But let me just preface by saying almost every single book I've read by this author has been a 5-star read, and these 2 also fit that bill. If you love a book that is going to make you think about society, makes you think about life philosophies, socialism, all that kind of stuff, these books are it. Like, Fredrik Backman just has a way with words. He just has a way of creating a narrative that, even though it's a simple story of a simple person in a simple town in a simple world, they feel relatable. They feel important. They feel like they will make a difference in your life. And that is what these books did for me. A Man Called Ove is about a young man, not actually that young. He's much older. He's a grandpa. He's lost his wife. He just wants to die in peace. And instead, things keep happening that prevent him from just living out his lone life in solitude and being able to complete his suicide. Over the course of the book, he does have newfound purpose. He creates found family for himself, and it's just a beautiful novel to read. I think I laughed during this book. I cried during this book. I screamed during this book. Like, it was such an emotional roller coaster, and I really, truly loved this book, and I would recommend it for anyone. And that is A Man Called Ove. For anyone who has seen Up, this is very reminiscent of Up with a slightly darker twist and more of a realistic view that is very, very relatable to real life. Britt Marie Was Here is about a woman who has lived her life a certain way forever. We get a little bit of history as to why she is the way she is, what her childhood looked like, how she ended up the way that she is, but she never knows quite where she fits in and quite where she's needed. She's very particular, she's very precise, and a lot of times people don't like that about her. They don't fully understand her. And when she ends up in a position where she's separated from her husband, she realizes she needs to create a life for herself. And she finds herself in a small town where she basically gets embraced by the small town over time. And she finds herself the reluctant coach of the youth team there, trying to play some good nature American soccer or European football. And in the midst of all of this, she's just trying to find her place in society and slowly find her sense of self and her voice once again. Beautiful book, very emotional, very poignant, very, very woman going through midlife crisis and finding herself kind of novel. But I absolutely adored this book. This was so cute. In the Fredrik Backman books, I would say this was my least favorite of all the books that he's written, but take that with a grain of salt because this was still a 5-star read for me. I still cried, I still laughed, I still enjoyed every single second of it, and I am really hoping to finish the other 2 Fredrik Backman books that are now on my collection sometime, hopefully in the next couple of months. I'm so sorry. He just released a new novel this year called My Friends, which is definitely on my list to be finished. And then he also has another book called My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You I'm Sorry, and I can't wait to read that one either. And then once I finish more, I will get into a full dive of Fredrik Backman and all of his creativity and the books that he's written. But this is one of the most magical authors I have ever read. The next book I have is actually the 3rd book in a series, which was very highly anticipated and awaited, and that is none other than Accomplice to the Villain by Nicole, I can't say her last name, Maehrer. It was absolutely hilarious. If you're looking for a slow burn romance that is just beyond the charts, adorable, cute, funny, with some slight spice, but like maybe 0.5 to 1 chili spice, a lot of closed door scenes, this is the novel to pick up. Basically, this is following the story of a man who finds himself inadvertently known as the villain, trying to fight off the evil king. But while he's known as the villain and he's feared by all, he secretly has a heart of gold. He inadvertently ends up hiring a young woman named Evie, who is a bowl of sunshine and just has the kindest, most loving heart, and slowly finds herself turning dark to the world as the world continues to throw at her more and more unbelievable negativity. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful series. It is absolutely hilarious. And watching the relationship between the villain and Evie, especially as she continues to grow more and more important in his household and takes on more responsibilities and roles on his team, it is such a fun read. In this particular book, we find out more details about Alexander, or Kingsley, our lovely frog companion. We get to see more in terms of the history of Tristan, the villain, and Evie, his accomplice, and what makes them them. It's also really fun to read this book and find out that Tristan actually has a spell against his magic, and he's slowly trying to unravel that. It also shows the romance between Evie and Tristan continuing to grow, and they're basically running out of time, more so than ever, to fulfill the prophecy of Renadon so they can save the magic that's in the kingdom. This was a solid 3-star read for me. I would say that this book is very, very important because it does set us up for, I believe, the 4th and final book that's coming out. And there are some definite wonderful scenes that happen in this book. I will say of the 3 books, though, this one was probably the slowest, and this one was the one that had the least amount of things happening in it. You do find out a lot of important things. You see a lot of important characters along the way. I would say this is actually not quite 3-star. I would say 3.5 star. It's actually still really fun. I really enjoy it. I still recommend this series. But I would say in the series of books, this one was probably my least favorite. That being said, I still adore this book. I would still reread this book. I would still happily buy this book. I would still continue this series. I absolutely love the story. I love the author. I love the characters in this book. And I can't wait for the next book in the sequel set of books. Next up, I have The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This is basically a cup of tea in a book. It's about a young woman who is of different origin, finding herself in a new country, new town after her father tragically passed away and her mother ended up remarrying. She never really felt like she fit in with her stepfather and the environment that he had created for her. So eventually, feeling completely alone, she runs off and she decides to start her company of telling small fortunes. And as she's doing this, she inadvertently comes across other colleagues that end up joining her on her journey. And throughout the course of the book, they just go through small little things in this land that they are living in, filled with magic and wonder and the precipice of war around the corner. And they're just trying to find a young man's daughter. And Tao is just trying to live a happy life. The unexpected found family between the four main characters in this book, the journeys that they decide to go on together, it's just beautiful. You also have cats in this book that are adorable. You have lovely little mules and horses and just wonderful relationships between the characters and the animals and the adventure and the travel that they're going through. This is definitely what I would call a cozy book. It's very predictable. You can absolutely see from start to finish where this book is going to go. But that being said, it is probably one of the most fun, predictable books I have read in a while. And there are some very thought-provoking components to this book as well in terms of its comments on society and the idea that you can kind of create whatever future you want for yourself. It also really debates this idea of free will versus fate, which is kind of a fun topic of discussion. And I would say that it's definitely worth picking up and reading if you're just looking for something that feels like a blanket in a book. Watermoon. Watermoon is one of the cutest books I have ever read. This is also very much cozy fantasy. In this book, you basically have the real world and you have a shopkeeper who is running a shop, and she and her father are actually of origin from a different world completely. And when someone walks in and they basically want to trade, a memory that they no longer want to have, that memory is collected by the shopkeeper, and in turn, they are given peace of mind and the customer gets to leave. These memories are then taken and given away to a secondary world where these characters are from. And these memories that are collected are basically what's sustaining this magical world that exists on a different plane from our own, but still exists nonetheless. In this book, the young shopkeeper, who is our main female character, ends up on the precipice of taking over the shop as her father is getting ready for retirement. She has been well trained by her father. She has been taught all the ropes. She's ready to step into the shoes when all of a sudden she wakes up one morning and realizes the shop has been vandalized and her father is gone, and one of the key memories has gone missing as well. So now she doesn't know quite what to do, and she's just sitting in a world of chaos. And a young man walks into her shop, sees a woman with a cut on her foot, bleeding on the glass, and seeing that this shop is in disarray, and he just wants to offer his services. From there, she basically ends up taking him on a wild magical journey, and the two of them together get to explore this magical world as they basically try to track down this memory before she loses all of her shop and her standing in society and ends up being exiled, like we find out her mom has been in the past. Beautiful book, beautiful idea behind the book. The relationships in this book were very beautiful. The developing of this fantastical world and land was very cool. There's a lot of just little pieces of magic within this book whenever you're reading it, and overall it was a really fun read. I remember finishing this book and still continuing to think about it for days on end after I finished the book, and I finished this book at the beginning of the month. So for me, this was definitely one of those books that I think is worth picking up, worth reading. It's thought-provoking, it's fun, it's enjoyable. It also definitely fits the fall vibe in my humble opinion, and it also is just very, very sweet and very endearing and just a fun, cozy story to read as well. I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. I then ended up reading The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune, who also happens to be one of my favorite authors. This book is basically following the story of a young man who has basically been told by his family that he's not wanted and he won't be accepted because of the way he identifies. And he has basically been thrown out from the only family that he knows. He ends up in the world of reporting and then finds himself in a position where his journalistic credibility is also being questioned because of his personal life choices. And now he's kind of in a position where he doesn't really know what to do with himself. He's really going through a period of depression and slight midlife crisis and dejection in general. Doesn't really know which direction he's going in, when all of a sudden he finds out that his parents have passed away and he has been left with the cabin that belonged to the family, as well as his dad's old pickup truck. And the end that his parents faced was also very violent and very painful for him to hear about, but at the same time he wasn't very close to them. He's very angry with them and he doesn't know what to do with all of his pain. So he ends up going to this cabin that he has now inherited, and he's trying to figure out whether he wants to keep it, whether he wants to sell it, when lo and behold he finds 2 stowaways at his cabin. One of them happens to be a very attractive man who is a gun-toting crazy person consistently pointing his gun at him, and the other is a little girl who is absolutely adorable, loves to talk, loves to chat, and seems just like maybe there's something a little bit unique and different about her. Later on, we find out throughout the book that she is in fact different and the government is after her. And now we find our main character on a crazy adventure trying to get this little girl back home. It's a very, very sweet book. It's very, very fun. It's exactly what you expect from a TJ Klune book. It is going to make you cry. It is going to make you laugh. It is going to make you think. It is going to make you feel. It has the most beautiful romance story. And in general, I just think TJ Klune is just a phenomenal author, and I cannot wait to jump into the next set of books by him that I do have on my TBR for this month of October, which I will share in the next video. But this book was a solid 4.5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. I don't think I've ever had a TJ Klune book that's been less than a 4 star. Most of them have been 5 stars. The only reason why this wasn't quite a 5 star for me is there were pieces of the book that I felt like didn't quite fit or felt a little uncomfortable in the way that they were narrated or where they popped up in the book. But outside of that little timeline component, every single piece of this book was wonderful for me, and the story still ended up flowing and it made sense and it was beautiful, and I definitely recommend you pick up this book. The Unraveling of Cassidy by Holmes by Elissa R. Sloan was also another book that I ended up reading this month. This book was intense. Now, keep in mind, this book is very thought-provoking. It's very enjoyable. It's perfect for the fall season, but it does start off with the fact that we know that one of the known major band members of a famous girl band has just woken up and committed suicide. And the story is being told from the perspective of the member who committed suicide in flashbacks, as well as the other members of her team in present time, to try to understand what led to the events that unfolded that day and what led to this woman feeling so dejected and so isolated that she felt the need to take her own life. It's a very interesting story. It definitely gets into the seedy heart of the limelight of entertainment industry. It kind of gets into this idea of what it feels like to be a young character, a young person who is still discovering who they are as a person, and your formative years being thrown into, again, the entertainment industry where the entire world can see you. It's also written in a time period where a lot of seedy things were happening, particularly to women, but they didn't necessarily have a voice yet to share some of those things that were happening to them. And the book, because it spans 10 years, we get to see that trajectory of change, and we get to see these women finally getting the voice that they deserve. But still throughout it, you get to see these little pieces of tragedy and these little falls of a person's identity and their core until they feel kind of like a shell of themselves. But the story is very beautifully told. It's very, very well written. It's one of those books that definitely draws you in, and it feels very relatable, even though these characters are living lifestyles that I for sure have no idea what it looks like. But I do think it was really interesting portrayal of female friendships, business and friendship, kind of like coming of age, all of those things wrapped up into one. And I do think it's a fun read. This book ended up being a 3.5-star read for me. And I did genuinely enjoy it. I do think there's a lot of other books like this that also have quite a bit of impact as well. But overall, great story, would definitely recommend. Okay, we are now getting into controversial territory because this book has been celebrated. This book has won awards. This book has gotten 5 stars on so many different platforms. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I finally got to this book. Now, here is the thing. The book itself, phenomenal. The storyline itself, very entertaining and interesting. Very, very emotionally roller coastery kind of book. Hated the main female character. Hated her with a passion. Found her selfish, found her pathetic, found her useless, found her very defeatist, found her to be very lacking in ambition. Like, as someone who's ruthless and ambitious, and that's the way she wants to be seen, she's very easily influenced by the men in her life. She very easily curls up in a ball and just gives up. She completely lashes out at people that care about her. She makes decisions about supposedly close friends who are her entire life and decides to turn on them at the last minute without ever having a real conversation about it. Just really hard to like the main female lead character. She's a very flawed character. All of the characters are flawed. All of the characters are relatable. All of the characters are very gritty and have an essence of real world to them. I can absolutely see why this book received 5 stars. I can absolutely see why people loved this book. And I wish I could say the same. I think the overall storyline, the plot, the vibes of the book is phenomenal. I just can't forgive a female character that is that anger provoking for myself personally. And for that reason alone, I ended up giving this book a 3-star. Now, that being said, any book that can pull that kind of emotion out of me, that kind of feeling out of me, the writing is incredible. It's an absolutely brilliant book. The author is absolutely phenomenal for writing this book. It just wasn't necessarily the right book for me. That being said, I do think everyone should try and give it a read, see what you guys think. It's broken up into different parts. Each of the different parts, you get to see various aspects of the character's growth. You get to see the book told from the perspective of multiple different characters as well. So you really feel like you get to know each of the individual characters in this book. And while it is very much about game development, video games, all this kind of stuff, the book at its nitty-gritty is more about the people, the company, the friendships that are being created than the actual gaming industry itself. So I do feel like there's something in here for everybody. It just wasn't necessarily the perfect book for me. And last but not least, we have The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. This book was so cute. It was so sweet. Again, it just felt like sunshine in a book. This book is basically following a woman who is on very hard times. She loves her job. She's a phenomenal teacher's assistant, and all she wants to do is adopt this little boy who's in the foster system, who sees her as someone who could be his forever parent, and she wants nothing more than to help this little boy. But because of her current circumstances, she's not in a position where she would be granted custody of this boy. And while she's facing all these demons, she gets offered the opportunity to go to Clock Tower, which happens to be the place where her favorite author works from. And the stories that he has written has basically allowed her the opportunity to connect with the boy that she wants to adopt, as well as getting her through some very hard times in her childhood. A competition is listed by our reclusive author who has gone missing in action for years, and he suddenly announces that he will be publishing a manuscript of his newest book. He's only going to have 1 copy, and he's going to have a competition at his island, which is invite only. And if you get invited to come to this island to play these games with the devilish Jack Masterson, who is the author of all of these wonderful books, and you win, you will receive the only manuscript of this book ever made. And so obviously there are a lot of bidding wars and things like that on the sales of this book. People are very interested in purchasing it. The kids who are invited now as adults to come back for the competition all have a direct connection with Jack Masterson himself, and he just wants to do whatever he can to give these kids a fair shake and a fair chance from the wishes that they had written to him about when he was younger and they were still children. And it's kind of a full circle kind of novel. The little games that they have to play are so cute and so fun, and definitely make the adult mind revert back to their childhood. It's also one of those books that's just heartwarming, and the romance that's being created. The goals of the book is so beautiful. The found family is so beautiful. The forgiveness and the reconnection between various characters in this book is also very cute. It was a really fun book. This was actually one of those books that I just felt was so sweet and so heartwarming, and I did end up giving this book a 4 stars as well. I would definitely recommend it. It is absolutely beautiful, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And that does bring me to the completion of this video. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure to be able to talk all things books with you guys. Definitely leave me a comment below if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, if they've made your TBR, if there may be books that have been on your wish list and after this review you felt one way or another way about them. Definitely let me know in the comments below. I love reading all the comments and connecting with you guys as a community. For those of you that are new here, once again, my name is Jaya. Thank you so much for being here. I put out bookish related content primarily every Wednesday and Sunday. If that sounds like it's up your alley, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you never miss out on the party. For those of you that are returning, once again, can't thank you enough. I appreciate you all so much. And I just want to say, wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night, I hope you are safe. I hope you are loved. And I hope you're having a wonderful time reading. I can't wait to catch you guys on the next video, and we'll catch up soon. Bye, guys.